This week on the Digital Coffee, Instagram are testing a sticker that could allow everyone, not just people with 10k followers, to link to websites. Facebook are launching a newsletter service, and Twitter are making it easy for you to share tweets directly to Instagram stories. All that and more after this. Good morning, good morning, good morning. My mug was round the wrong way, and welcome to the Digital Coffee. This is your weekly dose of digital marketing and social media news for small business. My name is Amanda Webb. Welcome to everyone who's watching, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. It is great to have you here. Just a reminder, if you are on Facebook and you comment, and I can see some of you are here commenting already, that I will send you a copy of the Digital Coffee newspaper by messenger. It will pop up shortly after you've commented. Also, if you're on YouTube, I have just linked to the place where you can sign up to get that. If you don't know what to comment, and if this is your first time, we often talk about what we're drinking. So whether you're drinking tea or coffee, because this is our little coffee break together. And we also have a question of the week. I can see there's a few responses to that already. So here we go. Here's the question of the week. Do you wish you could speak more languages? So myself, I find languages incredibly difficult, always have. So I wish I could speak more, but it's something I really struggle with. So I have a tiny bit of French, a tiny bit of German, a tiny bit of Spanish, and a tiny bit of English Sign Language, all of which I've totally failed to learn. I can see Katie here says she studied 5 languages when doing her master's degree, but would like to be more proficient at least one. Hello to Stevie. Great to see you here. Hi, Stevie. And Katie, thank you very much. I'm looking fab with my hair and jacket. The jacket is from Your Style, Your Story, who are an Irish boutique, so I should give them a shout out. And you're drinking Earl Grey tea. So don't forget, answer that question. It is, of course, relevant to one of our news stories, which I'll be talking about at the end of the show. Or just say hi. Anything will get you that free newspaper. But probably it's time to get on to the news.
Hi, I'm Charlie Lawrence, and you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
You can't really link out of Instagram. You have got that link in your bio, but that's pretty much it, unless you've got 10,000 followers. If you have 10,000 followers, you can put a link in a swipe up, as you probably know, which means there's this big clamour. You know, everyone wants to get to that 10k followers so that they can get that swipe up. But I actually think the lack of linking is one of the things that makes Instagram interesting, more valuable. And actually, I like the challenge. I like the challenge of not having a link there. But it could change, because this week, Instagram are testing a sticker, a link sticker that anyone will be able to add to their stories that will link to a website. So you won't need 10,000 followers for this test. You can just do it. I'm sure there's going to be loads of businesses that are really excited about this. But here's the thing. We found ways around this lack of linking things, like asking people to direct message us for the link. And I think there's a lot of power in that, because if somebody direct messages you, they are further down the journey with you. They really want this thing that you're linking to, whether it's a blog post they want to read, whether you're sending them to a lead magnet to download, much like the Digital Coffee, or whether you are selling to them. You're telling them this is a product, you want to see it. It also means you get into deeper conversations with people, you build relationships. It becomes a trusting relationship, so people, again, are more likely to buy from you. Of course, it has its disadvantages as well, because not everyone wants to get into a conversation just to click a link. They may be curious, but not that curious. So this new linking will mean that you can actually send people directly to a website without that message. Now, Instagram have said that this may not survive after the test. After the test, they may just bring it back to 10k followers to see how it goes. I honestly don't know how I feel about this. Instagram is the network you can't link out of. Like I said, it's what makes it special. One thing is there are no plans to add linking to the feed, which I think is a good thing. The last thing I want to see is, an image from a blog post and a link to a blog post. That just makes it Facebook, right? What do you think? Do let me know. Good morning to Ginny. You've got tea today and you're 2 cups in. I've got a half finished cup of tea behind me, which I'm not going to finish now because I'm going to have coffee when the show finishes. So I think that is huge news from Instagram. Let's see what is next.
Hello, this is Rob Charles, the voice of Mike on Forever FM on Peter Kay's Car Share. BAFTA award winning, I've got to say, but I've not seen the BAFTA yet. Anyway, you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb. Enjoy. I'm on tea. Shh.
Did you ever see a tweet and think, well, that's amusing? It would be fun if I shared that to my Instagram story, but then you have to screen grab it, you have to crop it down, you have to then go and do the whole posting to stories thing, and it's just hassle. Well, a lot of people actually do that. And to help this, Twitter have now made it easier if you are on an iOS device to just click the share button and share a tweet to your story. This is one that I practiced with earlier in the week, one of my own tweets. Which is great. When I gave it a test, I was a little bit disappointed about a couple of things. I was hoping, like when you share from Spotify, that I would be able to click on the tweet and it would bring me back into Twitter. It doesn't do that. It's just a static image. So what would you use this for is the big question. Why would you want to share a tweet to Instagram? So I suppose the first thing is, what if somebody's left you a nice little almost like a mini testimonial on Twitter? It's a great way to share it out to more people, to your audience that aren't on Twitter, because we know the Twitter audience is still quite small compared to the likes of Instagram. What if you just saw something funny that you thought would spark a conversation? You could share that as a tweet to an Instagram story. What if you just saw something that you thought your audience would appreciate and would make them smile? You could share that. Obviously, sharing links is out of the question. It's not clickable, but I do think, seeing as people are doing it already, this could be a good tactic. But then I wondered, because I can't click the link, what is in this for Twitter? What is in it for them? Why would they let you do this? Well, I thought, if loads of people are already doing this, if loads more people start doing this, it's kind of giving them FOMO. What am I missing over on Twitter? This Twitter looks like a really interesting and fun place to be. I'm going to head over there and check it out. That is all I can think of. But to be honest, it could really work because that's the sort of tweets that you're going to use. So smart move from Twitter. Easy way for you to create Instagram story content if you are a business. Do let me know if you have any interesting ideas of what you might use this for. Good morning to Deirdre, who's watching on YouTube, who is drinking water. It's a very muggy day here in Athy, so absolutely water is a good thing to be drinking right now. I can't wait to take this jacket off once I finish the show, I tell you. And I mentioned FOMO, and here she is, the FOMO creator herself. Yes, a great way to share FOMO. Yes, and it's a shame it's a static image. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? I was wondering, would Instagram even allow it if you could click back through to Twitter? You know, they'd have to have a pact to let that happen. Kate thinks it's a good idea for Twitter too. It will encourage me to open Twitter. And, both myself and Making, who is the FOMO creator, by the way, in case you didn't know. No, we love Twitter. I'd love to see more people there because it is my favourite social network.
Hi, I'm Catherine Mason and you're watching Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
What is it with social networks and newsletters right now? LinkedIn were the first, I think. LinkedIn launched some sort of newsletter service that I'm only half aware of because I'm subscribed to some that I probably shouldn't have subscribed to because I never read them. Then it was Twitter with their Twitter newsletter service, and now it's Facebook. Facebook have launched newsletters this week. It's called Bulletin. And when you go to Bulletin, I was kind of excited straight away. They have recruited some creators right off the bat. And when you go in, you can go and view their content, and you can choose to subscribe, in which case you will get their content in the future by email. And you can also share their content to Facebook, obviously. And what's really interesting is who they've got. So the first one was Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if I may just be a bit of a nerd, but I love Michael Gladwell. Martin, it would help if I called Malcolm Gladwell's. I love Malcolm Gladwell's books. So I was really excited to see him there. So of course I subscribed straight up. Here we got Erin Andrews. I don't know who she is, but I need to find out now. And there's a few other people that would be familiar faces that you can sign up to. And what's interesting, I think, is when I looked then at the content they're producing, these are basically like blog content. The first newsletter I got from Malcolm Gladwell was a long read. It was like reading a blog, and it is going to have a space on your newsletter page to click in and actually read that content. So from that point of view alone, I think it could be big for businesses. It's a place for them to repurpose their blog content, much as they might on LinkedIn, much as they might on something like Medium. So I think it's big for that. I also think it's interesting to see who Facebook have recruited to start this. And it taps into what we were talking about last week, which was when Facebook launched audio rooms, they made it available to public figures first. Not influencers, public figures like Malcolm Gladwell. And this is a real turn for Facebook for the sort of content it looks like they want to be created and shared on their network. I think intellectual is the wrong word, but maybe higher quality content, which then brings me to another rabbit hole, which is, are Facebook finally going to admit they're a publisher? Because they've been avoiding that so that they don't get sued for stuff. It's a really interesting take on it. The Bulletin site, which I will link to below when we finish this show, is also, really professional, less like the fun bit of Facebook and more like you're going to read something serious here. I'm going to be excited when businesses can avail of this too. I think it is a real opportunity for businesses, but I don't think you should abandon your regular email marketing to this. It may be something that you would repurpose that content onto rather than I wouldn't be trusting Facebook to do all my email marketing for me. Let's just put it that way. Any views on that? Would you set up a newsletter on Facebook? I'd love to know.
Hi, I'm Lee from Wellshot, and you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb. Cheers.
When you create Facebook ads, there's 3 places where you can add text. There's your primary text, and that's what would appear above your Facebook ad on Facebook and below your ad on Instagram. And that's kind of your maybe slightly longer form content when you try and tell people who this is for, what the benefit is. Then you've got your headline, which would usually appear underneath. And then you've got your description, which only works on some very few placements on Facebook. So actually it's something that I rarely use, but that's quite a lot of text to write. And if you want to do ads well, you need to have at least 2 different versions of your ad text for Facebook to use. So that's a ton of writing for you. Well, Facebook have just introduced this new thing called optimise text to user. It's maybe not called that. I need to look at my notes because it's called something weird. Optimize text per person. And what this does is it will take those 3 areas of text that you write, your headline, your primary text, and your description, and it will switch them around. So any one of those could end up being the primary text on your ad, which gives more options of ads to show to people. And they're going to show the different versions depending on that person's activity on Facebook. Now, how that will work, we're not quite sure, because I imagine it's AI. So how sure Facebook are will be a question. It's a machine that is learning from this. But it could be that some people prefer a shorter version of text, and that would be what they would put at the top then, because it would be the headline maybe would be the shorter version. Other people like longer versions of text, so maybe the description will go in there. What it does mean is that it's less work for you, less work for you when you create your ads. You don't need to necessarily create all these options. You can just create one and Facebook AI will do the rest of the work for you. Good morning, Emma. Jeannie, I'll come back to you. I agree. I think Bulletin sounds great as an addition to repurposing content, but you wouldn't use it as a standalone newsletter. It's just too risky, isn't it? We gave Facebook everything when we gave them their Facebook page, and look what they've done to that. Newsletter does sound interesting. You know, I think newsletters are definitely a sort of content that maybe we should look at. I know I don't really blog that much anymore, but I do send out a newsletter once a week, which is the equivalent of a blog post. I just don't need to optimize it for search engines, which is helpful. And that comment was there already. Sorry, here's good morning to Sylvia. Great to see you. Thanks for joining. And Katie says the split testing for the Facebook ads sounds interesting. Now it's something I do split test. So I do create the multiple versions of text, but there is already a split text option or a dynamic creative option. So I can already put in 3 different versions and it will do the mix for me. I don't even do that because I like to see my results on black and white on a page, but it is tempting to test this new optimize per person out.
I'm Ian Anderson-Gray and you're watching Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
Twitter has taken a leaf out of Facebook's book, and it has introduced a new ad objective. I know, who uses Twitter ads? Maybe you should look again. It's got a new ad objective, which is a 15-second video view. And that means when you create an ad on Twitter, you will be able to optimize it to be shown to people who are most likely to watch your video for 15 seconds or more. I love this. I'm excited about this. I think they need something like this. You know, with all the iOS and privacy updates, they need to help us build better retargeting audiences as part of the network. And that's what this does. If that doesn't make any sense to you, let me explain. So, firstly, if somebody watches your video for 15 seconds, it means they've done more than slow down while scrolling past it. They've actually invested some time watching your video, which means they're going to remember you more, which means you're taking people who've never heard of you before and you're introducing yourself to them. Then you will be able to build an audience of people that you're going to show to your next ad to who've watched 15 seconds of your video. So your first stage would be to people who've never heard you before. Your second stage, then you would try and maybe sell them something, or you might get them to sign up to your newsletter or get them to follow you, but they know you already, so they're more likely to take that action. So that warm audience you will be able to build is worth it alone, but also the fact that I could promote these videos that I put on Twitter and people would watch for 15 seconds and you can be sure they'll remember me, right? So it means that, you know, the next time they see me, they'll be more predisposed to what it is that I do. So I think this is exciting. I actually am tempted to go and try Twitter ads again, which I just found heartbreaking, really. I found them stressful and I find their reporting terrible, but I do want to go and try this new objective. I do think there are room for some Twitter ads in this world, but I do think you have to be careful about the Twitter ads that you put out there and make sure they're going to be relevant to the audience like everything else and they fit in with Twitter.
This is May King from The FOMO Creator and you're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
TikTok doesn't want you to make ads. In an article that they published this week, they said it again. They've said it before. They do not want you to make ads. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that they don't want you to advertise on the network. That's not what it means. But what it does mean is they want you to think when you're creating an ad that you're actually just creating a TikTok. You're just creating content for the platform. Because the problem is, if you think about it, when you watch the TV, if anyone still watches the TV, I do, and an ad break comes on, what do? Most of the time, I'll go and make a cup of tea, or I'll pick up my phone and look at my phone, or pick up a book and read a book, because You know, the ads are interesting the first time, but you see them 10 or 20 times, you're like, pfft. The same happens on TikTok. The same happens on TikTok. If I'm scrolling through TikTok and I see something that looks like an ad, you can bet I am scrolling straight past that onto the next video. So what TikTok are saying is if you're making an ad, try and make it right for the platform. Try and make it look like a TikTok. Make it helpful and useful content that enhances your brand. And here's an example they showed. And when you look at this, it's not professionally shot. It's not shiny. You know, it doesn't look like they had a film crew in to do this. It's just a TikTok. And it is, in fact, I haven't got the whole thing here. It is, in fact, promoting a hair gel or a hair product for curly hair. So she's doing a demo of the product, but you're not going to see that big picture of the bottle. You see it a couple of times during the TikTok in her hand. So that means they'll actually be able to get people to watch that, and their ads are going to have a better result, whether it's for branding or for sales. And this makes sense because TikTok have been doing a lot recently to encourage people to create businesses to create TikTok content. They had a conference. They have tutorials and training videos for business profiles actually baked into TikTok. They have added or are adding to their ads interface, which sadly I can't have yet because it's the United States only. They have added a video editor that mimics what happens on the phone. So people sat at their desktops will be able to create TikToks in exactly the same way as you do from your phone. And I think it's smart for them to tackle this now because we've seen it happen on Facebook and Instagram. The ads just don't fit in. People aren't thinking about the networks they're posting to and aren't creating content that really should fit those platforms. That was a bit of a rant. One last call. Would you like to speak more languages than you do already? That is my big question of the day. Good morning to Louise Brogan. Thanks for joining me, Louise. And would you like to speak more languages than you do already?
You're watching The Digital Coffee with Amanda Webb.
Technology means that there are less barriers to worldwide communication. We can pretty much talk to anyone on the globe on a video call like this. Anyone in the world. But there is still one big barrier. Well, I know some parts of the world still don't have Wi-Fi, but in general, there is one big barrier, and that's language. We can speak to everyone as long as we speak the language that they do. But Zoom wants to change this, and I am so excited about this. Zoom have just purchased a company that does AI translations. So artificial intelligence, which means it can learn. It's going to be AI translations. So I will be sitting here speaking in English, and somebody who only has Spanish will be able to get subtitles of what I'm saying in Spanish as I speak, much like the automated captions that you get on Facebook. And over time, as it learns, it's going to get better and better. I'm just so excited about this prospect. As a Doctor Who fan, I always loved that Doctor Who could go anywhere and speak to the aliens and understand what they said, and they could understand what he said. Always loved that. I feel that now I will be able to be Doctor Who, even though I am very poor at language skills beyond English. Hopefully my English is good. I am so excited that now I will be able to communicate with everyone in the world. And that, I think, is going to be huge for the future of business, big and small. And that is it for the news for today. I can see, firstly, Emma does want to learn more languages. I want to as well. If somebody can work out a way to get them into my brain, I'd be so happy. I'm using Insta stories for my LinkedIn stories. TikTok is a step too far. You know, I think unless you're able to create like pretty amazing TikTok content on a daily basis, I do think it's a big commitment. And I know you're a YouTuber, so, you know, stick with YouTube. Can't help but think what could possibly go wrong with the languages. Of course, there are going to be glitches and things that will come up, but people will know that they're using like new technology. So I think they'll be more forgiving of those translations. And actually, if you heard me speaking French, I'm probably saying stupid things anyway. That's it. Right, that's it for the Digital Coffee for this week. I will be back, same bat time, same bat place next week. Until then, bye-bye.